Hi guys, it's Miss Jessie again. Today we're going to go back into our fundamental unit for economics. And we are going to look at thinking at the margin. This is Unit 1, Lesson 2, Standard 2. So for today, we've got a couple goals here. We need to be able to give examples of how rational decision-making entails comparing the marginal benefits and the marginal costs of an action. We need to be able to define marginal cost and marginal benefit, explain that rational decisions occur when the marginal benefits of an action equal or exceed the marginal costs, and explain that people, businesses, and governments respond to positive and negative incentives in predictable ways. So a couple opening questions here. One thing I want you to think about is what makes a decision-making process a rational one? Also, what might rational decision-making have to do with maximizing profit for a business or satisfaction for a consumer? And I'd like to add one more. How do people and businesses, and governments too, respond to incentives? We'll just put that and we'll talk more about that. And remember, incentives are positive or negative. We have both. We'll talk about that also today. All right, so in economics, rational decision-making entails comparing the marginal benefits and the marginal costs of an action. In economics, marginal refers to one or more units of something, but it's really adding a unit. So some examples of applying marginal analysis to decision making. For example, should a firm produce a few more or a few less units of output in order to maximize its profits? Should a consumer buy a bit more of this and a bit less of that to be as satisfied as possible with the purchase? Is the marginal or additional value to a firm of hiring more workers greater than the marginal or additional cost of hiring those workers? And then hopefully by the end of today, you will be able to think of other examples of hypothetical questions that involve thinking at the margin. So the economic way of thinking. Comparing marginal benefits with marginal costs is a very important way of thinking economically, and it leads to rational decision making for consumers, businesses, and governments. Choices really are rarely an all or nothing proposition. Usually they concern marginal or incremental changes. So with the economic way of thinking, it is all about marginal analysis. If the marginal benefit of an action is greater than the marginal cost, do it. If the marginal cost of that action is greater than the marginal benefit, don't do it. And that's really what rational decision making is about. Economists often state these rules by saying that actions should be undertaken until the marginal benefits are equal to the marginal costs. And then finally, we have incentives. Why would we add something? Why would we not add something? Why would we take time to complete a homework assignment? Use that additional unit of time to do a homework assignment. Well, a positive incentive is that you get a better grade. What would be a negative incentive of adding more speed while you're driving? Well, if you break the speed limit, that's going to result in a ticket if you get caught. So that would be an example of a negative incentive. Positive incentives are things that attract you to a certain behavior. Negative incentives are things that discourage you from a certain behavior. And then finally, in closing, I want to point out that the economic way of thinking requires thinking at the margin, marginal analysis. And that refers to evaluating what happens when you add one or more units of something. So in closing, I'd like you to think about this. Should you decide to sleep one additional hour tonight? What would you gain from that additional hour? what would you lose from that additional hour? You have to think about those things, and then that would be a rational choice as far as your bedtime habits or getting enough rest. You know, a lot of us just, I think, fall asleep when we fall asleep. But anyway, all right, that is it. And now I want you to go to the next part of your lesson. Remember to do all of your lesson. That's how you get credit for your work. And I'll see you soon. Bye.